So there's a game that we all play. I'm sure this game will sound familiar to you. It's the Hi, how are you? I'm fine game. Now, you know how it goes. One person asks the question, and the other person answers, and then the person who answered comes back with, and how are you? And then you say, I'm fine. Now, this can happen in lots of different ways. It can be, how are you? How's it going? How's your job? How's your family? For those of us, especially who have aging parents, a question that's often asked is, how are your parents? And we all have our default answers. Usually it's something like, I'm fine, things are going okay, doing well. Now, I personally like to throw a little kink in there every once in a while, and I'll say, I'm vertical. And just A, because it catches people off guard, and B, because vertical is better than being horizontal 6 feet under. So I do it with a little bit of humor. However, if you go around listening to people, you'll often find, and this is more in non-COVID times when we are out and about, but it even happens on Zoom if you're in a meeting with, with a number of different people and you know at least some of them, you'll have the whole "So how's it going" kind of thing going on. Now, I'm bringing this up, well, for several reasons, but I'm starting by saying, guess what? I'm a master at this game. I don't know if you are. I'm a master, but you know what? Being a master at this is not a good thing. In fact, it really brings undue pressure to situations to always feel like you have to say that you're fine. Now, I am certainly not saying to go the other way and to, share the deepest, darkest part of your heart with everybody who asks you that question, or to go on and give a really long answer about something. I'm not saying that at all. There may be some people that you choose to do that with, or you say, "Hey, things aren't going great, but let's set aside a time to talk about that." Because obviously, if you're just sort of in passing or in transit, you don't necessarily want to have a long conversation about that. But it occurred to me, so this is why I'm bringing this up at this time. It occurred to me that over the past weeks, as I've been talking a lot about my rotator cuff surgery and recovery, that people have often said, "How's your recovery?" And I've been like, "Oh, it's going okay." Or I may say, "Oh, it's painful, but it's coming along." And whenever I've discussed a difficulty about it, I've discussed the difficulty, obviously, something I can't do or whatever. But then I've also given the solution for it or how I've worked around it. And that's great. And I'm hoping that that has given people some, good ideas, not only for something like rotator cuff surgery, but I've also generalized that to be other medical or health based conditions that can impact us at any given time. But I realized it makes it look a little easy, and it makes it look like I have it all together, and I already get that a lot. I mean, I'm an organizer, so people naturally think that everything I do and have is organized, which unto itself is not true. That could be a topic for a different video at some point down the line. However, it also means that in this particular situation, that people who are listening and getting the tips and doing things with the tips and going, "Oh, that's great. Oh, I can do that." Guess what? Let me tell you a couple of things that aren't quite as easy. Just so you know that even though I may give you the tips and smile, it is not all rosy. And again, I'm not going to go into this in any long way, but just a little snippet. So, not only is it painful, which I've probably said a couple of times, but sleep is really difficult. There's still an inability for me to do some things that I've been doing for years as an adult that I can't do now. My current one is not driving. And I will say that yesterday I went out and tried to drive. I had tried 2 weeks ago and was unsuccessful. And yesterday when I went out, I really thought I was going to be able to. My physical therapist said she thought I'd be able to. So I went out, and yes, physically I could drive. However, I noticed that because I still can't lift my arm very high when I have it on the steering wheel, yeah, it's really over here on this right side, and I can't do it very quickly. I have to sort of concentrate, And I'm thinking, this is not a safe way to drive. If I had to get myself somewhere on an emergency basis, it might get me there, but it's not really safe just because other drivers, something may happen. I may not be able to react fast. And I cannot tell you how frustrating it is to not be able to drive now, and discouraging, of course. Now, I've had to rely on other people, also not my strong suit to do that, ask for help. And it may or may not be your strong suit as well. And I had to rely, of course, on my friend who stayed with me for 5.5 weeks. And then she and others have taken me to physical therapy. And my organized mind goes, okay, I've got someone picking me up. Let me get some other errands in. Can I run for groceries? Can I, do something else that has to be done? So I'm trying to condense it so that it's not, so that I'm not impacting someone else quite as much. But the bottom line is, I have to get help because I can't drive. Now, at this point, you may be thinking, well, that's all fine and well, Janice, but what's the point? Well, to wrap this into something that I talked about quite a while ago, I really started to realize that it has to do with the grief process associated with life transitions. And although there are many models, I distilled it down to days, that initial days, and then the distress, and then the discover, which is the on the other side, accepting things kind of thing. And I'm sort of thinking, well, by always saying that I'm fine, or by anybody always saying that, the mindset is I'm saying I'm fine, so things must be fine or close to fine, or maybe that things shouldn't be not fine. And instead, when we think in terms of, well, this, and this are going well, but this and that are not going quite as well, that gives us a chance to go, oh, that's where may want or need to make some changes, or in this particular case, get some help. But we'll come to that in just a minute. I'll loop back around to that. But when we always are saying we're fine, we're thinking that I have to be, because the alternative is not good. And guess what? Normal life is, and I use the word normal with a grain of salt, that's a whole different thing altogether, but we'll just say adult life has its ups and downs, and it's going to have its ups and downs regardless of what stage of life you're in, what you're going through at any given time, whether it's this global pandemic or something, like you need to get your grass cut and your mower isn't working. We all have our ups and downs. And again, we're not going to share everything with everybody, certainly. However, when we're in that mindset of I'm fine or everything has to be fine, we're actually limiting ourselves. And this is one of the reasons why I started Life Transitions Organizing, because I really realized that people that are impacted by a life disrupting situation, such as those, not only those, of course, but such as those that are associated with medical conditions, such as surgeries, uh, ADHD, depression, traumatic brain injury, celiac, diabetes, anything that falls into any of those categories, transitions, they cause all sorts of chaos, and specifically to our time and our space, or our stuff, however you want to refer to it. So there's what happens when things are going well, and then there's the more tasks, more appointments, more all sorts of things that happen when you're going through a life transition. And so it's just really more difficult. And that's why I started Life Transitions Organizing, because I really want to help people create those systems for managing their tasks, their time, and their stuff. And that's one reason why I've been, talking about a lot of things related to my rotator cuff surgery, just so you can get an idea of, again, how my experience can be broadened to other areas in terms of the changes that take place in your life with what you're able to do or not able to do, depending on what the case might be. So I would just love to know if you have, if you're willing to share this. What not where you're struggling, although you can share that, but usually if I ask something like that, nobody wants to share. So when we're talking about your time, your tasks, and your stuff, which area in general do you feel like you manage the best? And you can pick home, you can pick work, either one, just let us know. So it could be home tasks. I get all my home tasks done on time, etc. It could be, you know, work. I stick to a work schedule. It works really well for me. So if you feel comfortable, I would love to know what works, what not only what area, the time, the tasks, or the stuff, but also one thing that works really well for you. Because whatever tip you put in that works well for you might be a tip that someone else can use so that they can also get some help with their time, their tasks, or their stuff. If you have any questions or need any other information on this topic, please feel free to drop me a comment or to direct message me, whichever works better. And I hope that you have a great rest of the day.